It's February 10th, 2024. I'm sorry, February 12th. I went to the surgeon this morning this is the sunlight behind me. Um, I'm wearing red and white, and then I have stars on my socks. The Veterans Association, Linda made a donation and they sent them. Um, so there's I went to the surgeon this morning for an update. I took a photo of my x-ray that they took, some other photos that were concerning on the computer, like it was a screensaver in the room. So I took some photos of that. I realized on the Northwell Health, whatever, it has the word orthopedic spelled wrong. So not sure what that's about. I don't know if that's like a like an internal business. Like, again, I just don't have the answers. But my ONE at the In God We Trust, with the Federal Reserve note on file within the United States of America, which is defined by bounds and laws and all sorts of things that I'm not a professional at. But I know if I need to be the TWO for an ONE, that exists somewhere, without having to go into transcending space and time. Again, sunlight behind me, in frightening things. So, and I apologize again, the leg does not look kept well. It was turning purple pink. It isn't even my normal pigment. But again, that's just part of the physiological challenges I'm going through at the moment. But it was just documentation that needed to be put on for my personal RH sensitivity and priory being whatever it is. So here we are. I'm going to leave that in hands with, I put on some tiles of whichever to build a message, I suppose, on Facebook for whatever Facebook investigators do, since I have no access to anything human, like, really. And then on the television, there's this piece about they're preparing for a storm, a snowstorm, and the message that they have out, the mayor, like, again, this is President Biden's administration, so New York City mayor is up there with the chancellor of the school and the sanitation person, and they're just addressing the city. So I'm just going to make a note of what they look like. And then there's this, then there is this piece where Trump is speaking of NATO. Again, I don't know where the adults were when I arrived. Like, I ask, but I don't get any answers from Linda and Lois. Like, nothing that really makes any sense whatsoever. And then I know the series of rooms that I went through, and there was no talks of something called a NATO. Not that it doesn't exist, because it exists on the television. They're saying that it exists, and there's laws and ways that things work, which I know nothing about. I'm assuming my ONE as his TWO, who looks out for my care and well-being and security of whatever. I'm assuming that he got that level of education, because, I mean, I would like to be brought up to speed myself, but, I mean, where does one go? I have no idea where to even begin. I feel like 45 years of just being left behind puts me in, like, this childlike category, or, like, catatonic state. I mean, I don't even, but yet mother of son and future. So it's really this. So I'm listening, and there's something going on about NATO and active members of NATO and not paying their fair share. I'm listening to this storyline, which I'll reference, but I really don't know what it means. I don't know how to construct based on the limited education level that I've gotten thus far. I don't know how to construct that between the sun, the moon, the stars, and where I am within like the United States of America, within the Federal Reserve Note, and within the ONE at the moment, for the one general, George Washington, and the first president of the United States of America. So I'm having, but knowing that I met Thomas Jefferson, and he's a living legend, or so the historical references still say. So so that's that. So I'm just on this digital piece that they're putting out there. I don't know what this NATO means. I'm listening to Trump as best I can. I listen to both microphones. Like if Trump is holding one kind of microphone and Biden's holding some other microphone, and I really don't know anything about either of them. But it's like, and I don't even really know. I keep seeing this saying of business in the front and then like party in the back, and I'm just like, right. I just feel like I'm always business. It's always business because it's what's right in front of me. It's always professionalism and business and hold it together, never knowing what I'm walking into. And it's just, but like trying to figure out my way. Like I very much feel like Alice in Wonderland, totally lost in the maze and like not really sure what's like just what I mean. Like the sunlight's a perfect example of radiologically with telescopy and satellites and NASA and what's going on with the amount of frequency and projects that they allowed between breaking up the small, healthy telephone monopolies. They were healthy monopolies. And now all of a sudden, I don't know what this is, but this looks like part of cybersecurity that there's some process, and I'm very deeply concerned. So I'm just watching. This is the mention about the snowstorm for tomorrow. Normally, they don't cancel school. Normally, they wait and then they see if the snow, because sometimes the storm is not really bad. It just passes on through. It's not that big of a deal. But now they're actually canceling school, and they're going to be remotely working, the children, tomorrow. So I'm just going to make note of that. And then I'm going to go back to whatever the conversation is with former President Trump. And he's got something else going on with classified documents at the same time.
Our top story, the upcoming winter storm. New York City public schools have switched to remote learning for Tuesday, and the school's chancellor just spoke about it.
The mayor and I spoke early this morning. He gave the...
Now, this is Mayor Eric Adams for the Biden administration, and this is the chancellor, so they claim. And then this looks to be like an NYPD rep, and this is sanitation and I'm in the year 2024 at the moment. Again, sunlight being what it is at frightening things outside.
The word that we should start the preparation. We notified all of our superintendents, our principals, our teachers have now all been notified, and parents are being notified in real time as we speak. And one of the things that was most important that I shared with the mayor was that in order to do this effectively for a school system this large, you need as much time to prepare and to be ready and to let parents know so that they can be ahead of the game.
And we'll have that rain changing over to snow late tonight throughout the morning.
Now, he says ahead of the game. I've heard that term bastardized my entire life. It's just like this saying that happens in the background. Like, for language purposes, they have something that they call subliminal and something that's sublingual. It's one of those. There's no cognitive attachment to, like, what game? Like, we're playing a game? There's a game going on? Nobody spoke of a game. Now, there was it says 2 injured in shooting at Lakewood Church in Houston. Shooter killed. It's going to go from this into the NATO mention. I don't know why they sequenced that. It's Channel 7. So again, like, I'm not in charge of, like, media room and what they do on the back end of the television. I'm just tracking it as part of whatever's going on with telecom outside, with dangerous science effects of the whatever and the whatever, knowing that there's been population changes. I wrote about that this morning. I can't find work. Like, I mean, Stop and Shop, but I can't afford a house. I can't afford my son on that. I can't even find a relationship that I want to be in. I'm just stuck with this blacksmith meeting, like toilet paper on my shoe. Don't know how else to explain it other than how I really feel about it. I mean, do we get along? I'm business in the front, always.
But they stepped up and they did their job, and I want to thank them for that.
We don't understand why all these things happen, but we know God's in control, and we're going to pray for that little 5-year-old boy and pray for the lady that was deceased.
Police in Houston are still investigating a motive for the shooting.
Today, former President Donald Trump is in court in Florida for a hearing on his classified documents case. It comes as Trump faces backlash for comments he made over the weekend about the security of NATO. Here's ABC's Perry Russum with the latest.
President Trump's motorcade arriving this morning at the federal courthouse in South Florida. Just one of his legal cases on the docket today. This one is about the classified documents he's accused of withholding. Trump's stay in court comes after his comments about NATO this weekend.
You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Trump saying he would encourage Russia to attack NATO countries that do not spend enough money on military defense.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
There are no bills to pay in NATO. Each one of the 31 countries shares a goal to spend 2% of GDP on its own military, and as of last year, only 10 countries hit that mark. President Biden calling Trump's statements appalling and dangerous. NATO's Secretary General writing, any suggestion that allies will not defend each other undermines all of our security, including that of the U.S. With the South Carolina primary less than 2 weeks away, Trump rival and former governor of that state, Nikki Haley, jumping on his comments this morning.
Russia has never invaded a NATO country. They are scared of the alliance. He just put every military member at risk and every one of our allies at risk just by saying something at a rally like that.
What I don't get is, who were these people that were allowed to call themselves military inside the United States? Like, I don't even get that. Like, I don't understand it. Because where I was, I mean, like, there was no, here's where we're at. You're one of our priority children within the monetary system. Here's where we're going to be, and this is what we are, and this is what we do, and this is where you're welcome, and this is where you're part of your diatribe. Like, there was none of that. So what does that mean? What does that intonation mean? How do I get to the level of O-N-E at G-O-D in God We Trust, which is what's on the only legal tender I can verify, because it's in the banking system and it's in circulatory now. I mean, well, it's been since I've been here and while my mother and grandmother were here.
Back to the court case in Florida. It is happening behind closed doors, but the judge has ruled some of the information can be made public. Special counsel Jack Smith is trying to make the judge change her mind. He says it would expose witnesses to harassment. In Washington, Perry Russum, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Coming up next on Eyewitness News at noon, the dramatic moments of quick thinking officers saved a woman.
Now, I took some snapshots of things I was concerned about that I saw labeled on the Super Bowl. There were apparently, let's put it this way. I know what had a fever and pneumonia, and then said we couldn't see each other. I remember that. I remember showing up. I remember he was very gallant. And I remember being in a white collared shirt with a sweater vest and wanting to make sure that that was appropriate attire, because he was like one of the first people one of the first gentlemen that I had spoken to after the divorce. So I remember that. What was interesting was last night, what made me think of him was I took my son and I put him to bed last night at 9 p.m. And the score on the football game was 10-3. So I'm going to go to CBS and what they did this morning, make mention of that. But first, on Channel 7 News, they're making mention of a commercial I didn't see. It has to do with Beyonce. There was another person. I don't watch what the Oscars, the Grammys, all that stuff. I was with somebody who was very important to me at some point. We did not get to spend a lot of time together, but again, whatever little time we did spend, I'm eternally grateful for. I mean, he's one of the only men that I could sit next to in gallantry, like gallant men that I've met, like in a completely respectable way. And I just felt safe. There's not many people in the world that I can say that about. But the time that I got to sit next to this man, I felt like he made me feel like a woman, and just in like a connection to a human in a very small quantum entanglement. It's one of the only human relationships that carries with me. Just to put it in perspective. And he invited me over one night, and it just so happened one of the award shows were on, and it was the night that Beyonce was dressed in this like Egyptian sun goddess thing. And I'm just like, oh God, I'm like, this is what he watches. But again, I'm not all about the TV, and I would never have seen it otherwise if he didn't put it on. And I really wasn't interested at all in the TV. I was more interested in him. But that sticks with, like, there are some memories that I was really wired in and plugged in to, like, the Earthship from Starship, just for a conversational way of distinguishing the difference between some of the other useless, they call them a series of days. Again, when you transcend space and time, it gets really hard to keep the language consistent and not sound mental or like needing institutionalizing. So I'm going to put this on at the moment. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because it ties back to the one man that I sat next to. That was, it was a Match.com that I actually was happy for. It didn't last long, but it's the one that Like, if I get to pick one, on Match.com, he was the one that I didn't worry about. And whatever that means.
For a second, and besides the game itself, there was some pretty good Super Bowl commercials, at least by a lot of accounts, and one in particular had Beyonce fans buzzing. First performance in space.
Wow, Verizon didn't break.
You ain't gonna break me.
Still works.
Okay, they ready. Drop the music.
Drop the new music. Beyonce wasn't kidding about dropping new music in her Super Bowl ad with Verizon. After joking about breaking the internet, she released the first songs from her new country music album.
This ain't Texas. Ain't no hold 'em. Lay our cards down, 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 down.
I mean, come on.
Right? That's Texas Hold'em.
Come on.
The other new song is titled 16 Carriages. Beyonce's website says the new album will be released on March 29th as she continues on her world domination tour in every music category.
I mean, come on. I mean, aside from, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, I mean, that was like the second greatest thing coming out of the Super Bowl last night. And then the game.
Okay.
And it was a good game the second half, too,
Well, it's something for everyone, at least.
There was. Yeah. I don't know if I can say the same thing about the 7-day forecast.
No.
If you're
All right, now they're talking about NFL today, and they're talking about Chiefs dynasty. They're inside the U.S. territory with a monetary system, with an ONE, and on file with Federal Reserve notes. So I'm watching this, and I'm like, and then they've got something that they put up called Super Signer. They use this halftime show, somebody that they're calling an usher, and I'm looking at it from a world stage perspective of. So the partnership is coming in through NFL for this particular thing, although there's many sports between the NBA and the MLB and whatever. And I'm concerned about gateways trying to circumvent and human traffic and business traffic and merchant and create systems that are trying to upstage or alter the course of North American history and demography, and so on and so forth. Especially at the same time, science is going to this level of extreme, which I've also documented on some of the other applications that have been sent to my cell phone. So I labeled some of them with the appropriate internal seals, being like FBI, Homeland Security, whatever, which I grabbed off a snapshot of the television when I feel it's appropriate, of things that I'm finding that I'm being target marketed. They had on the other day about scams and things that are going, but on a very like kindergarten level. I know I'm not up at the level of like adult that like the ONE functions at in my 1 to 2 relationship, because he's most likely at Atlas level, ATLAS, holding the world on his shoulders, as opposed to my TWO status where I'm in the field. I don't know what the hell happened. It's like being in the eye of the storm. I have no idea. But I know it's not right. I know the way I'm being treated. Well, again, it's business in the front. And it's cordial. I feel relationships are being withheld from my person, and I don't know why.
One of the best halftime shows I've ever seen. Yeah. In football, it was at its highest last night. I cannot wait to break this down throughout the show. Mm-hmm. It was absolute chaos in the stadium in Bedlam in Kansas City. I want you guys to take a look at what broke out after the game. After the Chiefs' game-winning drive, Nicole, he got that touchdown, and it went wild. Danny Jacobson is also here in Las Vegas.
And if you see here, it says, first of all, here's the Super Bowl number. And then it says, Chief cement their dynasty.
And you're going to show us what went down at the game.
I mean, we all saw it. They were going crazy in the Power and Light District. Yeah. Everybody was going crazy.
And for those that don't watch football, like I don't, I know that, first of all, the word master in mastery has this, if you drop the M, yeah, it says Aster. Right, yeah. On Aerial America, on the eastern seaboard, they show what Aster actually looks like. And I only mention that because when I see the golf tournament and this like big deal about some golfer named Tiger Woods, I'm like, and they have mastery up there, I'm like, where's Priory on this? I mean, like this looks like Upstage, which is, I mean, Upstage, I was told, was death penalty. Like, you're not allowed to take the symbols and the language of the security force and then try to repatronize it and rebrand it. That seems like a very serious security issue. So, concerning and confusing. And so I'm watching this, and it says, again, whatever it says about the dynasty part. So I'm gonna go back to whatever it is that they're saying, for their celebration of whatever this is.
Crazy in the stadium because it was once again like this classic game in so many ways, down to the final seconds, and that's when it seemed like either team could win. Patrick Mahomes gets the ball, and we know this is why he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
Oh, and that's where I was going with that. Brady has a North Star birth date. It's important. It's the day I was born, different year. But he's so well known in celebrity. NFL kept him at such a gratuitous, like, special, and I know other people benefited with him being like the most celebrated son of the Patriots. I don't fault him for that. I just didn't follow his career because I was being treated so opposite. The way that they celebrate him, I was being bastardized in a completely, and I was the one who had the future child on the same star date as Brady. So, I mean, like, again, if you're looking at momentous, like, calcaneus calculus and where is it in the grand schematic of things for benchmarks and, like, how does the planet, like, turn and work and things get gauged off of, like, that's where at Atlas, yeah, transcendence of 1 of 7, and then I say I'm 7 of 8 only because it's the year I was born, and it translates out to HCGH. I saw that Kelsey was wearing NKH. That's important with a different meeting at Hofstra that I had before he disappeared and like fell off the face of the earth.
Mahomes swings it. It's there!
So this Chiefs dynasty is not with Brady involved. I mean, Brady was something called a Patriot, and then something I'd never heard of called is he a Buccaneer? No, I have to think about this. But he is a Buccaneer. I don't know. The one with the 2 swords, the 2 sabers. Whoever they are. I think they're the Buccaneers. He went to them after but he was New England Patriots, apparently. I find out after the fact. And he won the 7 rings. So, but this is not Brady as quarterback for people who don't follow NFL. I don't speak football. So, like, I'm just, like, honing in on the most important facts. Like, for myself, like, this is like an alien realm for me, football. I don't really follow it. I don't know it. I don't know what's involved in it, but it's like a separate industry, or like, I mean, like, they make so much money. It's like having a whole nother country like inside of an umbrella or envelope of something else.
Hartman, jackpot, Kansas City! A walk-off win for the ages for the NFL's newest dynasty. For the second year in a row and the third time in 5 seasons, the Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. But it was far from easy. In front of a star-studded Las Vegas crowd that included Taylor Swift and an entourage of A-listers.
And he lost the football!
A staunch San Francisco defense continuously stifled the Chiefs' offense. At one point, tight end Travis Kelce even caught on camera, venting his frustrations to and into head coach Andy Reid.
Juwan Jennings, a trick play.
The 49ers jumped out to a 10-0 lead after this trick play and looked in control heading into the half.
Got me feeling it.
That's when Usher took over with a halftime performance that ignited Allegiant Stadium, featuring guests Alicia Keys, Her, will.i.am, and yeah, you guessed it, Lil Jon and Ludacris. In the second half, the Chiefs' offense found its rhythm.
Mahomes goes for it right away, wide open.
Mahomes and Niners quarterback Brock Purdy traded touchdowns.
Jennings did it!
But San Francisco failed to convert.
So whatever that means. But Little John was there, will.i.am, something called a Ludacris. Guests there were Beyonce and Taylor Swift. Again, they call these things A-listers. And then if I fast forward,
overtime.
This is interesting because he's got this gigantic chain around his neck. He's got crosses in his ear, and it's a fighter jet. I'm like, that's definitely some form of pageantry. I just don't know what and to who.
It's the Super Bowl. Coach calls a play. Quarterback roll.
All while President Biden's camp put.
So, and at one point they had something up there. I snapshot it and then I put it on to the Facebook page for the, they had somebody who was deaf, and they called it super signing. And that was while Alicia Keys was playing at a red piano. Last night, interestingly enough, local area news is I went up to Brian Dempsey's, who I did not know this, but one of the locals told me he was a very famous boxer back in the day. And it's an Irish-American bar. It opened in 1994. I snapped photos of it, so I have it for my records. Tiafrio 1975 went in because, again, I'm on crutches. I'm very independent and self-sufficient. I don't like owing people anything. So, he took my son and I up there, and he went in to get the food that I had called in the order for. And at first, here's like some of the weirdness of whatever's going on in the area. They didn't even give us sauce. We ordered buffalo wings. There's no sauce on the buffalo wings. There was no blue cheese, and there was no marinara sauce for the mozzarella sticks. I mean, that's just good business, but for whatever reason, they didn't do it. So I don't know if that's signing and signaling to me for some reason. So this way I will make a mention of it, that I was there, they were there, and they were not Irish, for certain. Whoever's working behind the bar is not Irish. So I don't know, like, just how significant those details are. At the In God We Trust for the ONE, knowing that, like, there's Atlas and the Seven Sisters. So, but it's and Tiafrio was like, there was a weirdness, Nicole. Like, he's like, I can't explain it. He's like, but there was definitely something weird. And then he went back in to ask nicely for salt, for marinara and for blue cheese, because they had forgotten it, I'm assuming. And it was like, the marinara sauce did not, like, they did not fill the marinara sauce. They didn't even put like a quarter marinara sauce. It was like as if they just coated it in marinara sauce, but didn't actually fill up marinara sauce. So that's weird. And Anthony's like, I'm like, it looks used. Like, it looks like it was someone's returns after they had eaten their entire meal. Like, that's how weird it was. And these are not normal occurrences. So again, in the big wide world of like, how do the world work, and like, what are the puppets up to, and are the marionettes, and is there a problem with the way puppets are working within the marionette system? Is it subliminal? Is it intentional? Like, I really don't know how to answer those things. I don't at this point. It's star 1978, star 8378. Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.